Tim?
Yes, Coleman?
You may have noticed, and I'm sure the viewers of BRB UK on YouTube have noticed, that I do like my snazzy t-shirts. I do like ones with lots of geeky logos and stuff on there. Maybe we should do something like that, like a t-shirt.
Maybe about 5 years too late, we should launch maybe a merchandise store with t-shirts and more.
Well, I just said a t-shirt. You've gone overboard, Tim.
Oh, well, I was thinking maybe, I don't know, 8 or 9 designs of t-shirts. Possibly also hoodies, maybe some mugs, stickers, laptop cases, maybe some other things as well.
Well, that's like a t-shirt for every day of the week and also
Yes.
cups and stickers and stuff.
Yes.
Wow. Well, where could we get such a thing?
Well, you can now find such a thing. We will have links in the show notes and other things on the podcast. But if you just go to tpublic.com and search for BigRedBarel, you'll find a merchandise store.
It sounded like we were setting up an ad, but we weren't. It was just a plug for our own stuff.
Our own store.
tpublic.com, you'll find, as Tim said, a link in our show notes of this here episode and also in the description on YouTube, so go check that out.
Go and buy a t-shirt or hoodie or other item now because it's currently 35% off.
Have a look at our cool designs, like this one, and this one, and also this one. There's nothing on the screen. I'm just doing things, but they're going to appear in the magic of editing, Tim. You understand?
Ooh, magic of editing. That's your world, Coleman.
Good. And magic of t-shirts.
Yes. And we'll talk more about them on this week's show, but yeah, generally, go buy some t-shirts now.
BRB UK. Worse teeth, better accents.
Hello and welcome to this here episode of BRB UK 488. That be the episode number this week because, believe it or not, we've done 488 of the bloody things. And some, because we've done like specials and half episodes and all this kind of stuff.
That sounds like about 500 episodes too many.
Not including SG UK and On Her Majesty's Sarcastic Service episodes either. Whatever that is. Never heard of it. As you may have guessed by my beautiful dulcet Portsmouth gospel tones, Dan is also out from this week's episode, much like last week. Didn't think of an excuse. He is in court with Johnny Depp for doing something in the bedroom. We won't tell you what. We'll let you work that out. Sure, and a character witness. Good. But as you may have got by the butting in of one Timothy Kenneth James Hibbs that we have here, Timothy Kenneth James Hibbs. Can't say your name anymore. Tim.
No, good. Perhaps just stop full naming me if you keep on messing it up.
Timothy Kenneth James Hibbs, I will never stop full naming you. Some would say full shaming you.
I'm not ashamed of my names.
Well, then you won't mind me calling you Timothy Kenneth James Hibbs, Timothy Kenneth James Hibbs. Good. I don't know if I introduced myself. I'm Coleman. Hi! I'll be your host for this week. This has been very silly so far, and I will say, I'm pretty much up to date with all the games I've done been playing because this week I've done been playing more Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, and I am still of the belief that is one of the best games to come out this year. It's still a very good game. You should play that if you can.
What episode are you currently up to, Mr. Coleman?
I am now on The Force Awakens, so I'm on to the sequel.
There's been
trilogy.
an awakening.
It's fun. It's true. All of it.
All of it.
Yes.
All of it is true.
I'm looking forward to the throne room Snoke fight because I heard that's quite amusing. I did get a comment saying that who was it? It was JMac or JMAC. They said that they have also picked up Lego Star Wars Saga for the kids.
For the children. Do it for the children.
Yes, for I'm not sure they have children, but they've bought it for the children and not themselves.
Not themselves, yes, definitely not.
I don't have that excuse.
Technically, you have bought it for your children. You're just your own children, Coleman, which is slightly better than being your own grandfather.
I've sung the praises to high heaven and back last week, so we should talk about something you've been playing, Tim.
Okie dokie, we will do so. The main game that I've been playing on those there consoles during the week was actually just Elden Ring, which,
Oh, good. We've not spoken about that.
We haven't spoken about that on the show at all, so I won't go over that too much.
No.
But yeah, I'm now, I think, 111 hours into the game. It's a while since I've put that much time into a game. I'm still really enjoying it. I've just finished some of the kind of major quest lines, headed to Boyle City or whatever it is, Lendell, I think it is. And yeah, just making my way around there. The locations in that game, the surprises that wait around every corner for you. Like, I'm still, 111 hours in the game, and I'm still walking around places going, what the hell was that? What was that thing? Oh my god, what just happened there? And oh my god, you didn't just kill me like that. But yeah, it's still a fantastic game. I don't think I mentioned on the show that I played some online with Rick, friend of the show, Rick. Don't think I mentioned it on the show.
I don't think you did.
Did I?
I don't think you did.
No, I don't think I did. But yeah, that was fun. It's still a really convoluted, weird system to play online in that. I don't understand the desire or need for it to be in keeping with the universe and therefore really obscure and really weird. Like, to do it, I had to craft an item in the game. Rick and I then had to coordinate about the fact that we were going to be standing in the same place. Then he does something that puts a sign on the floor. Then at some point I use that item that I had to use, and then I get to summon him into my game, and it will only leave us together if we're in the same area. Wherever we start wandering away from each other, then it all kind of breaks apart. But we went dragon hunting.
It's kind of like the Elden Ring equivalent of doing the fusion dance.
Yes, basically, exactly
Good.
that. And yeah, we went dragon hunting and killed some dragons, some really big dragons. Got a load of money. Had a wander around. Beat a boss. Just, standard good fun times in Elden Ring, basically. That game continues to be absolutely fantastic. I know everyone's talked it to death already, but yeah, still really enjoying that game. I'm hoping to finish it, at least on my first run through, sooner rather than later. It's one of those things where it's a really well densely designed game that really kind of encourages you to, go and explore things and go and find things. I'm tempted to critical path it now that I've done a few things that I wanted to do in the game, and I'm not massively aware of lots of other things. But at the same time, there's loads of things I'm like, oh yeah, but I want to go do that. And oh, I still haven't done his quest line, and I still haven't done this. So yeah, I fear I could still be a while longer before I actually get to the end game content, basically. But I have heard you can beat the final boss and still progress stuff and do stuff. But then will I be tempted to go into New Game Plus? I don't know.
I've taken a break from Elden Ring just because of the massive amount of games coming out that I wanted to cover on the show, and we're reaching the end of that now. I think the last big release comes out tomorrow, or today as the podcast comes out, which is Switch Sports.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a proper name of it. Whatever, Wii Sports remake on the Switch. And then after that, I'll probably finish up some loose ends on some of the games that have come out, like Ghostwire Tokyo and stuff. But then I'll go back to Elden Ring. And I'll tell you what, Tim, I am debating re-rolling another character rather than carrying on from my previous one.
That is the Souls-like. This means you are a Souls-like gamer. Like, you are not a Souls-like gamer until you've got between 8 and 20 hours at least into a playthrough and gone, this is what I should do.
Yeah.
But if it tempts you, there's a particular point you can get to in the game where you can completely respec your character.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of starting a game just to do the super fun sorcery looking type thing where everyone goes, oh, it's a lot easier playing like this. So I can just kind of mainline through the game to say, I've done it now.
Sorcery definitely helps. But there are times where physical stuff really helps as well. So I quite like the fact that my character is a sorcerer and can use a prisoner as a starting class. So they're good at sorcery, but also good at, still physical actual fights, and I can use big swords and stuff, and I can't use full armor sets because that will be too heavy for me, but I can use a reasonable amount of stuff, and I've got a big heavy helmet thing on to start with. But it's interesting the way that game does that, because basically the prisoner helmet that you start with has such good stats that it's almost irreplaceable, even like in quite late game content. So it's literally stuck with me, and it's literally become part of my, my personality and who I am in the game, is this prisoner mask that I'm trapped in because it's too good. I think it's just quite interesting the way they've set that up.
You're like the man in the iron mask.
Yes. And I'm tempted to actually like throw off those shackles at some point in the game and have a reinvention of my character. But then I'll have to remember how ugly he is under that mask, because I left one of my friends to create my character while playing the game, basically. While setting up
Much like the man in the iron mask. No,
yes, that's exactly how it went down. With
he's
the
not an
man
ugly man.
Mask. Still a really well made game, still really well done, and yeah, very enjoyable. Gonna be hard to knock it off its perch as game of the year for me, for sure, I think, basically. But yeah, we'll see what the rest of the year folds out. And I still haven't picked up Lego Star Wars yet, so you never know.
You'll get my disc. Once I'm done, I'll wing it over to you.
Yeah, I'll see if it's any good then. See if it comes into the reckoning. I thought worth mentioning, just because I have been playing an extensive amount of it. I did play some multiplayer, which I hadn't talked about on the show. And also, we got 2 t-shirt designs that are Elden Ring related as well. So you should go and buy our Elden Ring t-shirt designs. Old Age, Mutant, Ninja, Pope Dog, and the Cali Tourism Board. So yeah. Go and check those designs out on our store. So there you go.
They are definitely a dog. What else have you been playing, Tim?
The other thing I was going to talk about was something I didn't play this week, but something I hadn't spoken about yet, from WASD. Now, just to run over that one very quickly, because we have spoken about WASD in previous weeks, and I spoke about all the video games I saw at WASD. But there was a board game section, and in typical my WASD trip this time, as I only had one day to try and get around everything, I tried to sneak in some board games. I didn't get too much time with stuff, but I did see one thing that was quite interesting. That was the first time I'd seen this shown off, and it kind of straddled the world between board and video games, so I thought it was appropriate for the show, and worth talking about quickly, especially as it's currently up on Kickstarter and is backable as we speak, basically, and as this podcast comes out to people. So the thing I'm talking about is a system called Teburu. I'm not sure of the pronunciation. And it's a gaming system, and I'll come on to explain exactly what that system is in a moment. And the game on it is a thing called the Bad Karmas, and the first game within that game is a thing called Bad Karmas and the Curse of the Zodiac. I believe I've got that right, that the Curse of the Zodiac is the subtitle to the game. Bad Karmas is like a game thing, and the Teburu is the overall gaming system, basically. So the gaming system is an RFID reader, and it basically has a flat board that goes under your game board almost, and that whole thing reads RFID chips, and then each character base model, or because it's a miniature, the first game at least, and the game that they're showing off, the Bad Karmas, was a miniatures combat game. So it's right. I think it's all co-op as far as I'm aware, but it's basically up to 4 players versus boss characters, basically. And I might be wrong on that. It might be 5 now that I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure if there's 5 characters or 5 players, so we'll check that information in a second. But yeah, basically you're battling boss characters and stuff in a similar fashion to how the Dark Souls board game actually works. Speaking of Souls-like games and board games, but yeah, in those sorts of games traditionally, you have a system where you might have like cards that you're drawing from, or some way of informing you what the boss character is doing, and then you have to, apply those movements to the character model on the board, and work out which direction it's facing and all that type of stuff. with the Teburu system, Teburu, it actually works all that stuff out for you, and there's an app which will tell you what to do, and then it will tell you, okay, this boss moves 3 squares this way, and then turns and faces this way and does this attack type of thing. And it kind of works that all out for you and just tells you what to do and keeps track of all the health and all that type of stuff. Basically, how each player gets informed in that, there's one of the limitations to the overall system is the fact that you need other devices to go alongside it as well. So normally you'd have one for the kind of dungeon master type role that you might want as more of a tablet device. So you might want a bigger device so multiple people can view it from a bigger distance. And that's kind of what you're using to work out what all the boss movements are. And then instead of a player card like you might have in a traditional board or card game, you each have a phone, and that phone keeps track of your character stats and your character's health and movement and all that type of stuff. So, right, it's good in some senses in the fact that it will work with a range of devices. The only thing that I always find is a negative to these sorts of systems is the second you've got to get like 5 people around a table and go, right, all of you have to have your mobiles charged up. You have to have downloaded this app. I mean, this has to be... it's just... One person won't have downloaded the app. Another person will be on like 10% battery and need to charge things up. And it doesn't matter how much you tell them beforehand, they won't listen, Coleman. That's the way teaching board games works, basically.
I have a question.
Yes.
So... This is a game that technically it's an electronic game, but it's it's a board game.
Yeah.
Where it connects to an app and all this kind of stuff. Is there a functionality where you can go, hey, I can't get 5 friends to come around and play this, or even 1 friend to come around and play this? Is there a way I could play it against AI?
Yes,
on
I
the
believe
phone
so.
or
I think they're like, and I'm just trying to check on their Kickstarter if it says about number of players, but I believe it's 1 to 4 or 1 to 5, and
right.
Yeah, it's 1 to 5, and it's all co-op, so you can play just by yourself against AI monsters, basically. And it's generally
it's right up your street then.
Yeah, it's generally just a boss battling game, so you'll have like one big boss character that the 4 or 5 other human controlled characters are battling, and I think it scales the amount of health and stuff that the boss has depending on how many people are playing, basically.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. As I said, the limitation is there in the fact that the kind of what you're purchasing is the plastic sort of board that goes underneath the board. So the kind of board game element kind of almost sits on top of it, and then the kind of miniatures and the sort of things that they sit on that then have the RFID chip.
Gotcha.
I believe in the first set you'd have to pay for all of that stuff. But the next time you buy a game in the system, it will be considerably cheaper because you won't have to buy the large plastic piece that sits underneath the board again. What you'll just have to buy is another set of miniatures and the board that sits on top of it. So I can't remember the exact figures, but it was something in the region of like, say, £100 for the first set with the RFID thing, and it will be £40 the next time you're buying one, basically. That sort of range of difference, basically.
Plus, there's you've got the whole opportunity to, in future, I mean, assuming if this sells enough and they keep it going, there's the whole idea where you could take pieces from different sets, and the developers could make games that mix in those, incorporate different things. It's a very Lego Dimensions or Disney Infinity way of having a board game. It's basically Amiibos, the board game, but it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, and there's also got a smart dice involved as well. So or die as it should be possibly, I think. But yeah, so when you're rolling the dice, it knows what number you've rolled, basically, and that plays into the app as well. So there are no more cheating when you're playing Monopoly with your family. You can't just go, just re-roll that one.
Oh, it rolled on the floor. Oh, good, it's a 6.
Yeah, that type of stuff.
Every time.
And Yeah, look, I think the initial investment is a little expensive, and I think it's one of those things where if you get into it and you don't like it and don't like how it works, then it's not going to sit well with you because it's a high price to entry. But if you do like it and do get into it, then subsequent purchases will be cheaper and there'll be more systems. Also, I don't know how many different like rule variants and stuff they're giving, but I think there was some like this boss will battle in this way in this circumstance and so it's not just you have that one boss or that one boss is limited to working in a particular way. Like you said, they can just add stuff onto it as well. So there could be added value in terms of like digital DLC for the physical components that you have as well, basically. And there is some variety in that initially, but yeah, I think that it's an interesting system. Also, Coleman, the thing that might sell it to you is one of the characters is a luchador with a battle axe.
He's bald with a beard and he's called Coleman.
No, a luchador with a battle axe. That's not enough to sell me, Tim. Come on, that's not enough. Good.
No, that's not enough to sell me on it. I mean, I've got to admit, it's definitely not for me. You know me, I'm very much over board games. However,
yes,
that is definitely your thing.
Yes.
And if it's if that sounds like a cool thing that you might like as well, listeners, then Teburu, The Bad Karmas, and The Curse of the Zodiac, which will that's live on Kickstarter right now. You can look that up, Teburu on Kickstarter, or alternatively,
Teburu.
I will put a link in the show notes of the audio version of this here podcast.
And yeah, one other thing I hadn't mentioned, I quite like the styling of it. I kind of was alluding to that with the luchador wielding, battle axe wielding luchador. But there's, a fun...
No, luchador wielding battle axe.
Yes. I was lining that up the wrong way round. I nearly got away with it if it wasn't for you, pesky Coleman.
No. You'll never get away with it. I will not allow these injustices to stand, Timothy. Kenneth James Hibbs.
But yeah, as I said, it takes away... The other thing I didn't say is just... This is one thing that I'd really like this to work really well because it takes away some of the biggest pains and problems with board game, which is kind of learning it, because it will take you through the learning the game process, which is quite handy. But then it also takes away the having to manage what's going on with the boss. Like, it will literally give you feedback, I think, via a light that lights up and it kind of goes red if you've got it in the wrong position. And, so like it does make it kind of obvious that things are... Because you play one of these games and then you realise, 2 moves ago... We really shouldn't have done that, and we've that's why it killed Bob, and we really shouldn't have... do we reset the whole thing, or do we go...
Bob should have known better, to be fair.
He really should.
If, the way to get me involved in this, I think, is where you talk about having 5 people with their phones all charged on and the app installed. If I could have the app in front of me and it literally tells me what to do. Because I got to admit, anytime anyone explains a board game to me, I switch off, and in my head, I'm just trying to do Scatman's World.
Well, that's why this is good, basically. So yeah, it's definitely one I'm
not a board game person.
Keeping an eye on. The miniatures I saw had been painted and had been painted quite nicely, so it added to the thing. But yeah, I quite like the styling and presentation of it generally. Anyway. It's an interesting system. I'm personally trying to not do Kickstarter much at the moment, and it's on the more expensive scale. So
thanks, Perfect Crime.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect Crime did a perfect crime on me and Coleman, and now we don't want to spend lots of money on Kickstarter anymore. They done
stole nearly 100 quid off the pair of us.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. If it wasn't for that, this is definitely one of the ones I would probably be backing if it wasn't for the fact I'm trying not to back anything at the moment, if that makes sense. But yeah, I do like the look of it. I am going to keep an eye on it. I'll hopefully report back on it. But yeah, it's an interesting system, and straddling the worlds of video games and board games is something that we do. So I thought it was worth covering for our listeners, basically.
That sounds amazing. You know what else sounds amazing?
What?
Podcast news.
Ooh.
Well, news for the podcast. It's video game news, technically.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know why I introduced it this way. We've never once introduced this way since the
we've never
beginning
called
of
it
the show.
podcast news.
I don't think.
Unless there is actual news about the podcast itself, Coleman.
About podcasts.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So first, we're going to talk about the Gamers Confessional podcast. And then we're going to talk about the IGN UK podcast. And then we're going to chat. I haven't got enough podcasts in front of me to look up stuff. But what I will say is we're going to talk about some news and headlines this week, and they're pretty PlayStation heavy for a couple of these. The first one is, I don't know if you saw the update, but if you have a PS5, one of the hotly anticipated features that are only available on the Xbox Series X at the moment will now be available on the PlayStation 5, and that is the ability to activate the variable refresh rate for certain games.
Coleman.
That is rolling out.
Coleman,
I saw.
Coleman,
yes.
Coleman.
Yes. Yes.
I get what that means, as in I get what those words mean. I don't understand why that's the thing that people care about. I was going to say explain it to me like I'm 5 years old, but just explain it to me like it's me.
There are games that play at, the kind of standard that people look for on the PS5 is 60 frames a second.
Right.
However, there are games that also play at 30, maybe a little bit lower, especially if you have like the high fidelity modes activated on your PlayStation 5, if you're not really worried about frame rates. Then there are games like Uncharted 4 that play at 120 frames a second if you have a special TV or a special monitor that's compatible and you have HDMI 2.1. The whole point of variable refresh rate is that if your game runs at a slower frame rate or a higher frame rate than your display can handle, it's meant to smoothen out and decrease any kind of input lag.
Right.
So this is a very important feature that exists on the Xbox Series X. I don't know if it's on the S as well, but now that is something that is available on the PS5. So this should fix some issues going forwards.
Is it just me, or is that not the best name for this feature then? It should be like
a variable refresh rate.
Like smoothing refresh rate, or something that indicates that it's doing something, because it just says variable, and I'm like, what? Why would you want it to be variable? That sounds like a bad thing.
I'm assuming it's so it can adapt. I mean, I didn't invent the term, but yes. I'm assuming it's so it can adapt depending.
Okay, that's
so
what it should be.
Adaptive refresh rate. Adaptive depending refresh rate. ADRR.
Yeah.
That sounds like too close to ADR. I've got to admit.
Well, ARR should do it. R. Should be
R.
Not ver.
That's the other problem as well. I'm pretty sure you have to, when you come up with something like this, you've got to make sure that your initialization doesn't match up with someone else's.
Right.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Who knows? There's only a handful of games that support this at the moment, but it does have the whole thing like with the PS4 Pro when you had the boost mode available where you could play games at higher frame rates or loading and all that kind of stuff. But if the games weren't supported, you could tick a little box in your settings and go, yep, force this into games. And sometimes it might break, sometimes it would work. You can do that now. So you've got the VRR setting option, which I did spot the other day because I just bought a new TV and I was setting up all the settings and things and looking at the PlayStation and went, oh, new options.
I think I'm correct in saying that my TV only does 60 hertz. I think that was one of the things that I compromised on because I wanted big TV. But hey, and I think it was a lot more expensive to get 120 hertz at the size I wanted.
Yeah, I think I'm going to look at smaller 4K HDMI 2.1 monitors for my desk, but then keep the TV as is because TVs are expensive. And my girlfriend's not particularly, but she uses the TV more than me, but she's not particularly bothered about refresh rates and frame rates and all this kind of stuff. It's just as long as her game doesn't lag, then she's fine. But yeah, I went to watch TV on Friday and the screen was just so dark, and it turned out all the backlighting had blown.
Oh.
So I went, let's look up how to replace backlighting. I reckon I can do that, but at the same time, we have been wanting a larger
buy a new TV.
So let's just buy a new TV and put the other one aside and figure what to do with that at a later date. It's probably going to sit in this room now at some point when I fix the backlights on it.
My bedroom TV's got this spot on it, and I think it was from before I changed my room around. I got a blind in my room now, and I had curtains before. And I think it's where the sun was coming through the slit in the curtains and hitting the TV. And there's this one bright spot that's just burned in kind of thing.
See, that's you're now listening to the moment where me and Tim just moan about TVs for a second. That's what kind of happened with me. It was like a strip of light at the bottom of the screen, and it was really, really, it was much brighter than the rest of the screen. Then eventually, everything else started going darker from one side of the TV on the top, and then it started closing in on that one strip, and now it's just the strip that exists. And I don't know if they've all burnt out or if they've fallen or something. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. But yeah, that's going to be a project now. That's going to sit aside, and eventually I'll swap that out for my old 1080p monitor that sits next to me while I podcast. To stop us
just turning into that old men that moan about TV problems podcast. Yeah, when it comes to the variable does that make a difference for your motion sickness and stuff?
It would, in the case of if it limits input lag, and if there's some kind of, because I could get I don't know, because I've not experienced this, but if there's a higher frame rate but it caused some kind of stuttering at the same time, then maybe that could cause a problem for me. I'm not sure. At the moment, the problem is it's definitely input lag is definitely one of the things, because when I was talking about going back to Far Cry 5 and they haven't patched it on the Xbox but not on the PS4 version of the game.
Right.
That game dips below 30 frames a second on the PS5.
Ew.
So when I'm playing that, I feel like I hit the thing and it looks like it's moving, but it takes a split second later, and that's it's that, and the frame rate is just throwing me off and making me feel really motion sick.
Right.
Which is a shame, because I really enjoyed playing that game, and then all of a sudden now I can't. I thought, I should really get back and finish that. I can't play it. It's making me feel physically sick. That's not good. Yeah, that's a shame. Yeah, they not luckily, they did it after the release of Dying Light 2, but Dying Light 1 just got an update like a month ago, so now I can play that in 60 on the PS5, so that was nice. That was nice of them. I can finally go and play that game before picking up the sequel. Anywho, also on the PlayStation side of things, and there's something that's been screaming out for in the games industry, and it's something that still is very much needed in a lot of areas, but PlayStation are looking to fill a hole, essentially, as it were. And that is that there seems to be a game preservation team that is being created.
Is it just me? This is like 15, maybe 20 years overdue? Like, how is this not already a thing?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, there are a lot of museums and dedicated groups and stuff that are looking at video game preservation in some form or another. And I get going to a museum and going, this is the Grandstand 3500 Mark III. I was just looking at those the other day. That's why I'm fresh on my head. These are Nintendo cartridges that were used in a court case about copyright, like stuff like that. I get that.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in the digital preservation of games. For instance, PT came out on the PS4 and now it is no longer available because it was just completely axed. And even though there were workarounds to get the game back on your PS4, when the PS5 backwards compatibility was happening, Konami made sure and went, hey, completely blacklist that game from backwards compatibility. That will never be available on PS5, even if you have used a bus, the USB whole thing. I completely forget what the workaround was. It's been so long. Yeah. But things like that go to missing. I was just talking to someone about Jump Force the other day. Jump Force was like a huge game that was going to come out. We previewed it at Bandai Namco, and then it's gone. It's completely disappeared off the marketplace. And the reason being is they shut down. First they shut down the online, and then they completely delisted it from the stores. And it's because of things like licensing. There's so many different licenses for so many different characters that come together in that game that it was more cost effective to just completely burn your bridges and shut the game down than renegotiate the licenses. With everyone, so things like that. All these, And I know that's stuff that from a first party perspective will not be available in preservation in any form because there's licensing deals that have to go to that. So I get people ripping this thing and going, right, this is available online here through nefarious means, which maybe shouldn't be so nefarious if it's something that is technically out of print. With PlayStation, it's something that PlayStation, I'm surprised, have jumped onto because there was the whole thing where what was the comment? We did an event where we pulled out the Gran Turismo games on the PlayStation and PlayStation 2, and they look terrible. If you want to play that, then why would anyone want to play that? It's like, that's your history.
Yeah.
Those are your first party. Like, lean into it, be more proud. And over the past few years, they have been a bit more, leaning more into the nostalgia side of PlayStation. The whole campaign where they were going to this bedroom and switching to the 90s and going forward to the 2000s. And
it's like they've never been to an event and seen the popularity of like the replay events section in the UK.
Yeah,
we have a thing called replay events, and they go out and they will have like a setup of like all the old PlayStations with all the old Gran Turismo games on, or whatever else they're showing off at that particular event, and then like old consoles that are kind of rare and you don't see much these days and all that type of stuff. They're evergreen popular. Like we always spend time in that section, even though we've seen most of what they have on display before and stuff like that. Just because it's
and
cool.
Owned a lot of the stuff.
Yeah. And so it's just odd to me that it's taken them so long.
Nintendo seem to be doing sort of digital preservation stuff where they're upscaling their games and making them available. It is through their subscription service, but they are games that are available. And even taking things like, Star Fox 2 are the big example. They sold that on the SNES Mini and now they've put it on Nintendo Switch Online. That's a game that was finished and never released. So, all very important stuff, I feel. And especially when you look at PlayStation were going to close down the stores for PS3 and for PS Vita. Nintendo are now shutting down the eShops for 3DS and the Wii and Wii U and all that kind of stuff. So it's all very important thing. Now PlayStation seems to be leaning more into their nostalgic vibe. We've seen it done in the past. It's good that the idea that they're looking at game preservation, but again, there is a problem with licensing, music, all this kind of stuff that can cause issue to preserving stuff. But I mean, even if it's available somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, generally, I think we both agree this is a good thing and about bloody time, and that sort of thing. I still can't help thinking though that they'll be like, "Welcome to the PlayStation game preservation team. We apologise for the PS3." Like, that's going to be their major headache the whole time. And in preservation, okay, there might be the issues around licensing and stuff. But the issues about this, how to make games from the PS3 work outside of the PS3 environment is probably like their biggest day-to-day problem, no? I
like to think that's been handed off to like a crack team of scientists that are working on this. However, it's more likely there's 2 or 3 people just scratching their head going, I hate my life.
Can we get the work experience kit to build an emulator? Is that a thing we can do? Maybe.
Look. I mean, at the end of the day, we already ported Last of Us. We ported GTA 5. We ported what was the other one? God of War 3. DMC, Devil May Cry. Do we need any more? That's fine. We Shadow of the Colossus completely recreated into a brand new game. We don't need to do that one again.
But there's also a cynical part of me. Do you think this is the preservation team they're looking to set up is entirely like just concentrating on just preserving games of the past, or is it a team that is dedicated towards what they can leverage from their past library and bring back and remaster and like, just, it might be a team that's overall in charge of, all right, this game we put up as a retro title as is, and this game we actually remaster and put out a new version, and this game we just need to scrap and start from the beginning and just use the name and kind of like, it might be more an approach to how we leverage our old content more than it is an actual, for preserving the history of games kind of thing.
I would assume that this is purely a thing for the going forward PlayStation Plus thing, where you can play older games and stream games and all that kind of stuff. I would assume it's something to do with that. What I would hope for, that this is a serious game preservation team that are backing up new games in some format. Serious game preservation. They are backing up current games that are releasing, as well as looking into their older games. And you talk about the PS3 problem, finding some way of not specifically making compatible to download on their PlayStation platform, but some way of that being available for future use in some way. The same with things like the Vita. I know the Vita specifically, you can only play those games on a Vita. That's why Vita games won't be available on this.
That's
new
on
PlayStation
a
Plus
Vita,
service.
not on a Vita. Just to clarify, it's not. Yeah.
No, the movie Evita starring Madonna from the 90s.
Just to make that clear.
It's going to be only available. Don't cry for me, Argentina. That is the only way you'll be able to play these games.
Don't cry for me, PlayStation preservation.
Those were the lyrics. Don't cry for me, PlayStation Vita.
Yeah, okay, right, yeah. Okay, sorry, yes.
That works. It's too long for a podcast title, but it'll work. I would like to think that they're looking at this and it's a team to look at this and work it out for the future generations, but more likeliness is it's just something to work on, to throw stuff into this service that they're planning. Yeah, we'll see going forward. And the last bit of news, and I feel like the news the last few weeks has really been spoiling me, because first of all, we got a Monkey Island sequel done in the style of, it's not pixel art, but it's more in line with the old Monkey Island 1 and 2, which is my favourite Monkey Island games, Monkey Island 2 being my favourite game of all time. And now I'm getting a sequel. I hope this is a sequel. It might just be tied in somehow to my favourite Telltale game.
Ooh.
And that is, which surprised me, because this is Tales of the Borderlands, which was a Telltale game.
Yeah.
Is my favourite Telltale game, even though I'm not a huge fan of Borderlands.
Right.
I played bits of it, but I never really stuck with them. But I love that game. It's the characters, the writing, the style, everything really, really gels.
Okay.
However, Gearbox has announced that they're making a brand new Tales from the Borderlands game, which is going to be released this year.
Yeah.
That's made by Gearbox, published by 2K.
Right.
Which you may think, hold on, where's Telltale fit into this? They do not.
Okay.
Yeah. So
they've just taken it back in-house, basically.
There is, basically. We know that Telltale exists. Telltale Games exists, but it's not Telltale Games as we knew it. Some people basically bought the name Telltale, and a couple of their licenses took them on to carry forward. I would assume that Borderlands was not one of them.
Right.
They're working on Wolf Among Us 2.
I think it was their independent things that didn't have
Dead.
Separate licensing deals, no? Or no, because Wolf Among Us was an actual comic before, wasn't it, as well? So
Wolf Among Us was Vertigo, which is DC, Warner Brothers, as we know. So, but I think that was a pre-existed thing that carried over. I'm not 100%. And that's the same with the Walking Dead. They worked something out to kind of keep on going, and then rebuilt the company and all this kind of stuff going forward. The company of Telltale as it stands, I think there might be some seniors in there and one or two developers from the original team, but it's mostly new people. They don't have the bones of the old Telltale. They're just like wearing its face over a imposter skeleton like the Thing. It's one of those, the old Thing resurrection of a game studio situation that we're all so familiar with. Anyway, as I meant, this is a new Tales of the Borderlands game. It's not made by Telltale in any way, so it might. I mean, I'm hoping it has the same spirit. I'm hoping it's the same characters. If you don't know, this was a game that took place in between Borderlands 2 and 3.
In your blurb there. New event promises a new adventure, new characters, and new tales. So, no.
Well, I don't want that, but maybe they can revisit old characters. I mean,
did it have
game was
characters
set
from
between 2
the
and 3,
existing Borderlands universe, or were they characters unique to the Telltale game?
Yes. So the two main characters, Reese and Fiona, they were your two main characters that were, and they did the whole thing where it was telling the story, and then something would happen, and it's someone narrating the game, and then
unreliable.
The other character go, "Hold on, it didn't happen like that. It happened like," and do the rewind. Very Call of Juarez type of gameplay style, which I really enjoy.
Unreliable framed
but they
narrative.
Weren't characters. Yeah. They weren't characters from the original Borderlands games, but they had characters from the original Borderlands games interacting with them. So one of the first Vault Hunters you come across is Zero, I think it is, the ninja. They don't talk, but they emote on their face, and they're really cool. Then there's like the loader bot type characters. They're in that scooter who does the catch a ride, all that kind of stuff. Claptrap even appears at the end if you do a certain
everyone's
thing.
unfavourite Claptrap.
Well, I'll make it much more favourable to you, Tim. I think 60% of the people that beat the game will never see Claptrap because you have to do something specific to see Claptrap, and he only appears at the end of the game. So, but yeah. And it's the original voice actor for Claptrap who was unceremoniously dumped from that game. But yeah, it's a very good game. And like I say, I'm not a big fan of Borderlands, but I really, really dug on that. And I'm probably going to give it a replay soon in anticipation for this. However, when they got to Borderlands 3, I don't know if they had the character Fiona in there, but Reese, I definitely saw screenshots of Reese appear in the game. So there's that. They incorporated those characters into the main Borderlands, but I would hope, even though there's new characters that we're going to be following in this new version of Tales from the Borderland, I'd hope that those characters come back in some way like they did with Borderlands 3. I don't know. I didn't look up the story of Borderlands 3. Maybe Reese gets his head blown off partway through. Who knows? But it may be good to have a complete clean sweep and no characters carrying over, and none of the characters from Borderlands 1, 2, or 3 appearing. Just maybe teasers, because that game did heavily focus on, what's he called? Handsome Jack?
Yes.
Who was like a big deal in Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel. So, anyway, really good. I'm very excited. I'd be interested to see how Gearbox are going to do this game. How are they going to follow the same kind of because what Telltale did was they basically took over from LucasArts in making point-and-click games in their style with their engine. So we went from the Scum engine to the Telltale engine, and everything was in Telltale engine.
To be fair, their engine was god-awful. It was the worst thing about their games. Like, the functionality in the way... I don't know if it got better by the time it got to Borderlands, but like the Game of Thrones one and one of the other ones I played were literally physically unplayable.
I think Game of Thrones came out the same time. It was concurrent.
Yes,
to
it was when they were doing far too much too quickly and not doing it well enough.
Yeah, the plan was release one month, one the other, one month, one the other, and then you get through all. But then the problem that Telltale often has is they go, we're up to episode 3. Oh, we're going to delay it by 2 months, and that also means we're going to delay the episode of the other game by a further 2 months on top of that, and it just absolutely falls apart. When they got to the Telltale Batman game, the first season, they completely revamped the engine. I think it worked a lot better. Yeah, still had some problems, especially when it comes to porting to other systems. I think I mentioned on the show before, I've been replaying all the Walking Dead games on the PC because they re-released them, the definitive edition, lots of improvements and stuff. That game works really well now.
Okay, but the point I was making is I don't think people will cry for the loss of that studio and for the loss of that gameplay. They will not be particularly bothered about the loss of that engine. I think if it's on a new different engine that just happens to be something that Gearbox or 2K usually work in, and I can't remember, is it Unreal for their games? I'm not sure.
I think Unreal maybe.
Yeah, that's what I would guess. But
I'd assume it'd be 4.
Yes, I would assume so.
This, yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
It's good news. I get a sequel of some sort to one of my favourite games of the last generation. So very happy about that. Completely indeed. Who knows what happens going forward? Thinking of words to say to get to see how long before Tim stops me from just saying random sausage words. Anyway, Custard, I'm going to think about doing
let you get hoisted by your own petard there.
Of the hoisted by my own underwear upper flagpole back in school. Half-masting, I believe they called it when they got you halfway up. And
as was the fashion at
the
time.
We don't as was the fashion at the time. That's why we don't talk about Coleman going to school anymore. Several therapy sessions to get that out of my mind. Not even looking at the camera anymore. I'm just going to see what's going on in the world. This is going to be rubbish for anyone audio.
Maybe we should start,
anyway, we should probably...
Yeah, getting out of here.
Yeah, we should probably think about getting out of here. But before we do, we have bits that we have to go through. We got business. We got business to take care of.
Serious business.
And Tim's especially got business because Tim, one day, he approached... I mean, as you would have heard from the ads and us plugging on the show as well, Tim came up one day and went, "Hey," this is how Tim talks outside the show. He goes, "Hey, Dan Coleman, let me tell you about my great idea. We're going to make T-shirts." He doesn't smoke. This is just for effect. Gonna make T-shirts. BigRedBarel eat. And we're going to have we're going to have Elder Scrolls. Elder Rings. What's it called? No, I've forgotten the name of it. Elder Ring. That's right. Sure. Sky Souls.
Good.
With a turtle. I'm going to say it's definitely a dog. And I was like, all right, as you were, Tim. All right, I'll do. Flicks his not a real cigarette away. It's chocolate cigarette.
Chocolate cigarettes.
Flicks it away. This is, yeah, please, Tim, talk about T-shirts.
I save you from your absolute hole of nonsense. Right, as we talked about in a bit more sense, like slightly more sense at the top of the show and throughout the show, we have actually launched a merchandise store. There are various things available. We have a selection of designs available. There's some stuff related to the podcast directly, and there's some stuff that is more just general BigRedBarel stuff, and there's some stuff that's more general than that. As we said, there's a couple of Elden Ring ones. We do plan on launching some more t-shirts in the future, but it's a particularly good time to jump on there and actually get some design. And I say t-shirts, like the way TeePublic works, in case you didn't know, there's a whole range of designs. So once you put the design up, there's a whole range of things you can get with them. And I've tried to go through and make sure that each design works on each color that we have available, and that they work in, sticker form and all the different things. So some things aren't available in all types of things, but mainly speaking, they're all available on t-shirts in one form or another. There are hoodies. There are mugs, teacups. Not quite teacups, more mugs.
Whoa!
But there are.
You can put your tiny pigs in them.
Yep. There are also. What else am I missing? There are
stickers.
There are
pencil cases.
No pencil cases, unfortunately, Coleman. But then we're
mouse
not at school
mats.
anymore. But there are. Well, there's not mouse mats, but there are
flower pots. Knickers.
What are they called? Laptop
Rice
cases
cookers.
and other bits and bobs that you can buy there as well. So check out the designs. If you like the designs, you can get them in various different forms. I particularly say that some of the t-shirt designs are hopefully probably where you'll be going. But
Hip
yeah,
flasks.
if you want to pick up a mug and stuff like that as well, it's also a really good week to do it.
Eye patches.
And this may only be the case for the next couple of days, so please check this out as soon as you hear this, because the sale is coming to an end, but it's currently 35% off on the whole site. Also, the way things work as well, we've also got a few designs that we recommend. They're just like other designs that are on the shop.
Hammocks.
We like the look of. They're also in our store. We get a little bit of money for anyone buying any of the ones that we're recommending. So feel welcome to buy any of those designs as well, and we get a little bit of money. A lot of people have asked us to start a Patreon in the past as well, and that's something that we've avoided before. I think we kind of always... I was always of the mindset that we wanted to leave that more for people that are earning their living from that. And okay, we do incur some costs, and Coleman, bless him, does do a lot of work on the podcast side of things. And we've got some money we'd like to invest in the website and other things going forward. But we also want to be trying to give some of the money that we're raising from this to the original artists, who I should also give a shout out for. So thank you very much to Undead Dog, Bleezy Boy,
and
Thea for their contributions. I've generally put them together as designs for the t-shirts and stuff, but there's a lot of original artwork that isn't by me. So yeah, just wanted to thank them for their contributions and stuff like that. Oh, we've also got a Tabletop Tuesday design, which I quite like just for the fact, and it's entirely cultural appropriation, but I, for some reason, wanted... I liked the look of the design of having Japanese on top of the design we had, basically. So I've got a friend of the show to actually make sure that we've translated. The actual translation on there is like Board Game Tuesday, but it's a Tabletop Tuesday t-shirt. It's our first Tabletop Tuesday t-shirt that's also available. I know I'm not currently doing Tabletop Tuesday, but I felt this was something that we could do that hopefully might encourage me back to doing the events at some point as well. But I just quite like the design for that as well. So go check that out. But yeah, thank you very much for the artists. Thank you very much for anyone that does put their hands in their pockets and actually picks up some of the merchandise. A percentage of the sales does go to us, so thank you very much if you do. A lot of people have always asked us, I'd like to buy you a drink, we'd like to send you some money. We've never had a way of doing that. I think this, even though like there's a lot of people that like to, fund their career in having a merchandise store, and we're not quite doing that, so I was always a bit in two minds about this, but I think it's a fairer way of us getting some money from people because you're getting something in return, and yeah, I prefer to do this than just go down the say Patreon route or other things like that. So yeah, anyone that is looking to buy us a drink,
gives you an opportunity
and to say thank
to buy
you,
us 3 drinks.
Well, 3 drinks,
or
maybe.
If you're outside of London, 6 drinks.
If you're inside London, 1 or 2 drinks, maybe, but still. But yeah, like it's a chance to kick us some money this way, our way. So if you have enjoyed the entertainment that we've generally provided for free over the years, it does mean that you have to put up with the odd advert and the odd me going on about our t-shirts on our podcast from now on. But I also thought this was preferable for us putting adverts in our podcast. Not that we might never do that again in the future, but yeah, for now this is the way that we're looking to do things. I will adjust some designs and maybe add some more designs, maybe take some away and sort of going forward. So the designs are on there now, won't necessarily be on there forever. Love feedback from anyone that gets them, and anyone that takes extra kudos for anyone that takes photos in any of our garb, if you're wearing the t-shirt or hoodie or whatever, or just holding the mug. But yeah, like I'd really like to see that, and as I said, we've tried to make some fun designs so that they are things that give you something in return for giving something to us as well. So yeah, hopefully you'll like them. Go and check them out. Let us know what you think. Let us know any other designs that you might want in the future. We will be looking. I've done a couple of ones for Elden Ring or Elden Thing, as they say on our t-shirts. But yeah, just let me know if there's a particular game that you might want something designed in the future, and we can look at doing that as well. So yeah, any feedback on all that type of stuff, please direct at our Discord or comments on the podcast, and we'll pick up on that in the next couple of weeks as well, and see how that's going down. But yeah, anything you can do to spread the word as well is also good on that front as well. So if you can't afford a t-shirt, maybe put the message out there and try and put it under the nose of someone that can. So yeah, thank you very much, and
good.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy that, because yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Stop talking.
Yes.
I look forward to going on tpublic.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's tpublic.com, and picking myself a BRB branded kayak.
You can't buy a kayak, I'm afraid.
Can't buy a kayak?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Right. We have the charity spotlight, and we are going to roll it over, as same as last week. We are going to roll it over once again to Geek Out for Gosh, and I'm going to save you the trouble, Tim. I'm going to talk about Geek Out for Gosh. Good. Just to save on time, and because
and people are bored of my voice by now.
Terrible lag behind the scenes. Anywho, so Geek Out for Gosh, it is an amazing charity where we are fundraising for Gosh. There is the Great Ormond Street Hospitals. Hospitals I've worked with in the past, and they do terrific work with children that are facing all kinds of scary things. So much like the Extra Life type things that we've done in the past, this is our gaming gaming charity marathons, usually 24-hour marathons, 12-hour marathons, or just in general, someone might want to do some fundraising on the side and just go, hey, I feel like doing a stream for raising some money for Gosh. So check it out. There are more details on how to get involved. You can go to the Gosh website, www.gosh.org, and just look up Geek Out for Gosh in the search bar there. Or alternatively, you can go over to Twitter, Geek Out for Gosh. That is a numeral 4, Geek Out for Gosh, and you can find it there. We need to do more. We need to do some fundraising at some point, I believe, because we've been shouting about Geek Out for Gosh for a good couple of years now, and we haven't done a stream ourselves.
Yeah, so we do actually need to sort that out.
I have to dust off the old capture cards.
Although
and get
I would
ready
say our
for some streaming.
plans on that were very much disrupted by COVID, because we had big plans before COVID hit, and then we've had to throw away those plans, and all of our lives particularly yourself, myself, and Dan, all of our lives have got slightly busier during COVID. So that has made those things more difficult. But we do need to sort that out, and then possibly try and sort something out in time for Extra Life this year as well, which is looming on the horizon, not too far away. So, yeah.
It is. I might not be in the country. However, that is Charity Spotlight. I have a question. That is the question. Well, that is the thing that people tend to state to us when they do, in fact, have a question. If you have enjoyed this episode and you want to get involved, somehow you can get in contact with us on BigRedBarel.com. There is a comment section. We have links to our Discord. We have links to our Facebook and Twitter, which are at Big Red Barrel. And also we're on YouTube, Big Red Barrel TV. Also, all those links are available in the show notes of this here episode. I think I'll have to check on YouTube. I think they're all on there on YouTube. They are definitely there on the audio versions. They work in different ways. They're not particularly the same size. There are sometimes things I have to cut out the YouTube version that might be on the audio version and vice versa, because it's just the way the medium works. However, those are the ways you can get in contact with us, and these people have got in contact with us. We want to, first of all, this one is from last week. We want to give mention to Ed, who asked us, with Activision and Amazon and now Nintendo trying to block unions, how long until video games start to feature unions as evil villains to be vanquished? I don't think they would, because video game companies like to throw on the narrative of, well, we don't want to make it political. So if you very much remember the very impassioned speech from one man talking about Watchdog Legions on stage at E3 for Ubisoft, and how they support England, the people of England that don't want to be forced out of the European Union with Brexit and all this kind of stuff, just to go, Watch Dogs Legion, that has nothing to do with Brexit whatsoever.
We've
it's
left
just future London.
Yep.
People are happy to voice their opinions, but not actually put it in the art.
Not actually back up those opinions. I mean, I'm surprised it hasn't happened in some vein already. Although, I wouldn't expect it from any of the big boys. I'm surprised there hasn't been an indie game that basically, involves unionizing and battling against your evil corporate overlords. There must be something of that sort of nature. I can't think of anything that necessarily springs to mind that is definitely commenting on the here and now, but you do see things that are, that hint at that from, things in the future, and other things that aren't exactly, don't exactly have a one-to-one representation, but do kind of make you think about similar things. But I'm surprised there hasn't been an indie game that is literally just, Amazon Workers Unite or something, or, like a small game that is literally...
It's probably on itch.io.
Yeah, possibly. But I'll be surprised if there isn't something about that.
That's where all the political games are. Pulling my phone out because I didn't prepare properly. We've got more from Ed. We will get to those if we have time. But first, I will go to Pete. Pete says, I have a... He wrote it. He actually wrote the phrase.
Good.
I have a question.
Yep.
Based on the delay to the Mario Brother movie, if you had to remake one video game movie, what would it be? And would you leave the cast the same or recast them? I will go on this one first. I would like to recreate completely as is
Yep.
the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, which was the straight to. Actually, no, it did come to cinema.
Yep.
I remember friends going to see it in the cinema, and I went. I had work. I would completely recreate that film as is, but as I've been saying for years that I wanted to do, and unfortunately I can't do because of news last week, I would replace all of the voice cast with Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh, poor Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah, I'm really sad about that.
Yeah.
What about you, Tim?
I mean, remake, and again, it's too late for this now, but remake the Mario Brothers movie with the original cast of Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo or whatever it was. But yes, the two of them.
John Leguizamo.
Yes, that's the one.
John Leguizamo. Bloody hell, Tim. And Dennis Hopper, don't forget, also passed on, sadly.
As Bowser. Yeah, like all three of them, but just like do it properly this time. What else would I actually like to see? I mean, we're getting a Ghost of Tsushima movie or TV series. I can't remember. I haven't seen Uncharted yet.
Now, isn't that starring the guy who... Isn't that starring the main guy from Ghost of Tsushima as well?
No, there was a bit of an outcry because it wasn't starring him.
Oh!
Which is a bit weird.
Oh, who's it starring? Tim?
Don't know. Some other dude that wasn't him. It was.
Oh, no,
it's not
wait.
me.
No, it was announced today.
Also
it
not
was,
Gilbert Gottfried.
The star of Ghost of Tsushima
John Legless
will be Chris Pratt.
I mean... Do you think that might be some
How's
of the
that
reason
for
from the delay?
cultural
Because they're like,
appropriation?
if we delay this a bit, maybe people won't hate Chris Pratt quite as much by the time the movie comes out, or maybe they're reconsidering the whole Chris Pratt involvement. Who knows? But yeah, there's nothing that massively springs to mind. Were they particularly saying we wanted an old movie remade?
Yes, an old video game movie. I mean, a video game movie, I guess.
Because, I mean... Right, Mortal Kombat has had enough.
I would have said Tomb Raider, but they remade that, and I thought it was all right.
And it was probably worse the second time.
And they recently... No, I preferred it the second time than the first.
Right, it depends which... Right, the first Tomb Raider movie with Lara Croft, that was okay. The second one was pretty poor, Cradle of Life. That was a substandard film.
No.
But the re-released reboot one with... What's her name? Vikander. I can't remember her first name.
Yeah, that was great.
Elisa. But anyway, yeah, that was okay. I thought it was fine.
Loved it.
The bit at the beginning with the bicycle thing was all a bit weird. And...
It's fine.
Yeah. Like...
Not a U2 soundtrack to be seen. It was brilliant.
I mean, yeah, okay, that's one thing in its
Loved
favour.
it.
But no, the one I was going to say was Mortal Kombat was remade recently, and that was pretty good. I quite liked the new Mortal Kombat,
great.
even though I quite liked the original. But we haven't had a remade Street Fighter, and I'm not sure they can better the original Street Fighter, the movie. Like, do you go
one of the greatest films of all time?
More cheese and just get Jean-Claude Van Damme back again for Guile? Can't have Raul Bravo. I can't remember anyone's names. Oh, how's it
Raul
pronounced?
Raul Julia.
That's the one. So you can't have him. Kylie for Cammy, maybe not, but then that was never a good fit anyway. And everyone else in that film was just ridiculous. But like, you know, I don't think you can better the whole. For me, it was just a Tuesday, like, and the whole cheesiness aspect of that whole film.
Just use the same line. They love doing that.
But then just use the same actors and have the same film.
Did you not watch Spider-Verse and bloody Goblin goes, I'm something of a scientist myself?
But it would have been... Yeah, right. My point there is, I would like to see another live-action Street Fighter movie, but I don't think you can better the style and attitude of the other one to that thing. So make it its own thing, do a different Street Fighter movie, go in a slightly different direction with it, and have an all new Ryu and Ken and all that side of things, basically. But yeah.
I mean, I'd really like to see a realistic Blanca where they don't just have a dude in a wig painted green, skinny dude as well, just kind of hanging out in the background, and then he's not even in the finale, he's just there, and he's like, I'm off now, see ya. I was Blanca, by the way. I don't know if you got that. They were showing me horrible things in a monitor, and then they showed me dolphins.
Yeah.
I don't know. What happened?
And then
the scientist was Dalsim. Did you not get that? He just shaved his head randomly at the end of the film. I'm Dalsim, by the way. Yoga Flame.
Yeah. So
none of that.
Like, I think you could do a more faithful recreation. Maybe take one of the old Street Fighter animes and remake that as a live action film. Basically, that'd be good.
Yeah. We want to talk. I mean, if someone wants to throw this out for a future question, I have a question. Then maybe ask us what films we want to see made out of video games, because I could list 20 off the top of my head right now.
I mean, a lot.
But
of them
we're not going to do it
because
because we haven't been asked. That's not how this section works. That's not how this works.
I've actually seen the first 2 episodes of the Halo series and not spoken about that on the show as well. So, but anyway.
Oh, yeah, I've got those queued up. I need to talk about them.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
They're not as bad as I thought they'd be, actually. Having said that the early reviews were bad, they I don't know if my expectations were low, but they're okay. All right. Anyway.
Well, I was going to say, I have them queued up ready to go. I've heard that they're terrible if you're really into the lore of Halo, which I am not.
So
I'm looking forward to watching those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quaff, he says, and he has also done this correctly, he says, I have a question. He said it in that cadence.
Oh, good.
What do you think is the maximum price people would pay for a Game Pass / PlayStation Plus service? In brackets, general consensus?
General
consent?
Consensus.
Yeah, that might be wrong. Anyway, general consensus at work is £20 per month, and that had to be equal to Game Pass Ultimate level.
So we're talking. So for £20, you'd get access to all of like the first party studio releases day one, basically. Yeah.
He's basically done a straw poll at work and come up with the average of people will pay £20, but you have to have everything included that you get on Game Pass Ultimate as a basic. I
mean, yeah. I'm trying to think. How often do you buy a, let's say, average £60 game? Because there are £70 games, there are £50 games. How much are you spending £60 on a Sony only first party title at the moment?
Well, I mean, I tend to buy 2 to 3 full price games a month.
So, but you're definitely at the heavy end of usage, and I was possibly nearer that category before, and I'm not quite as much anymore. Although that's partly influenced by Elden Ring at the moment. So
you had nearly 2 years of just playing my games, so
that helped also. But
that saved you a bit. Yeah, that helped.
But I mean, I'm just
you were
trying
making
to think,
money on that deal.
How much would Sony want to price that so that they're not losing out on the amount of money they make from selling a £60 or £70 game up front? Like, you would have to be they'd have to be converting people that buy less than a game a month into getting that service, as well as getting lots of people like you and I that might buy 1 to 3 games a month type of thing. I don't know how Sony makes that work for them and still has the available budget to do what most gamers, myself included, want them to be doing, which is making large AAA projects. No, and they have really, planted their flag in the ground when it comes to this is what we want to be a thing that we do and a thing that represents us. And even though we argue in a lot of weeks that the whole business model is very consumer friendly for Xbox Game Pass, we have mentioned more than once that there's a sneaking suspicion that this is a disruptive price, not the long-term price necessarily for this type of service. So
it's a great deal now.
Yeah.
But who knows for the future, because this could be the start of something. I mean, it's like when a lot of people were cutting their cable because, like, hey, I got Netflix.
Yeah.
I don't need anything else. I got Netflix. I got all the TV shows and the movies that I want on Netflix. And then all these different companies started clawing back their content and releasing their own streaming services. Now you've got this really weird, bloated marketplace of stuff that, and not just in this country, it's like in other countries, like everyone's got a streaming service, but then in other countries, you've got, like over here, the Peacock service is rolled into Sky, and that's something I think you can pay extra for. And we don't have streaming services, but then there are extras onto packages on top of the streaming services. So it's not the option to go, I'm just going to cut my cable and have a streaming service, because the streaming services tally up to more than Sky in some places. And now Sky's stupidly, I mean, I'm using Sky as an example, but that's Virgin, BT, Sky, all of those companies. And now those prices are getting silly as well.
But then I cut Sky off, and Netflix has got slightly worse and has offset that a bit by making some of their own content.
Slightly.
But yeah, that's very hit and miss. I don't know why it is Netflix can make a really good series for 2 or 3 series, but can't make a very good film. Like, every one of their films that they made themselves seems very forgettable for some reason, and I'm not entirely sure what the problem is there. But yeah, like, I don't know. We're in a weird world now where there's so many different streaming services. It's all fragmented. And I can see it all coming back together again at some point, and one person doing something to unite all those things. It just might take the death of a few services to get there, basically. But
it will be the next technology will be, some company goes, by the way, we've created this technology that will just beam the TV show into your brain directly. And you watch it in an instant, and we have all your favorites, and you go, brilliant. I don't need cable. I don't need streaming services. I don't need satellite, like all gone. Don't need any of this. And then all the other companies will go, well, now we have that technology and we want our content. We want Frasier. Give us Frasier.
And it's just...
Sorry, that's my one big example. I got Netflix to watch Frasier, and I got like halfway through season 1, and then they took it all off.
Yeah, it just... The digital content thing is getting so annoying now that we're in a weird place with that sort of stuff. But then I think a similar thing, to bring it back to video games, I think a similar thing is the problem with pricing up how valuable a PlayStation Plus or a service on PlayStation that is Game Pass like. There is a diminishing return from that, because it's not just all the first-party stuff, and Sony have a big problem if they're not going to put their first-party stuff on that, and it does seem to be the case that is the way they're setting their stall out. And I can entirely understand that, because that's the big differentiator and their big difference maker is the fact that they have these big, massive tentpole first-party releases. But as soon as you start getting into the what games you get on top of what is owned by Microsoft or what is owned by Sony, then as soon as there starts being crossover between those things, and you can see that easily coming into play in terms of, Square Enix putting out Guardians of the Galaxy on Game Pass recently. I can see that being one of the games that comes to this PlayStation service, and already that means that as a user of both of them, you are getting less value from having both of them. So that's going to be... It's going to be some, decisions made by people that are already signed up to Game Pass that is going to eat into the temptation. What's the word I'm looking for? The appeal of a similar service coming from Sony. So I mean, it's one of those. Not everyone can have their own service, otherwise no one's going to be able to afford to have all those services, and it just gets annoying in jumping around different apps and going from different places. Likewise, it's kind of nice that Game Pass has all those kind of games in one place. The one thing that we haven't really spoken about is what difference the business model will make to Xbox's first-party games going forward. We've already seen this a little bit with Halo Infinite. Is that game already different than it would have been as a product because of the environment it was produced for? Like, did Game
Yes.
Pass make that that's what I'm saying. I think Game Pass has already made that a slightly different game than it would have been had it have come out as a full price disc release game. And you know, just the fact that
it's turned into a games as a service without being a games as a service.
And just the fact that the multiplayer came out before the single player portion, that's different than it would have been otherwise, basically. And so, yeah, like, you get into funny areas of what difference is that going to make for Bethesda games going forward. And that's something we might actually find out more information about in June, I believe. Xbox, to not too much of a surprise, but have announced this week that they're doing their kind of Xbox. Well, the fact it was called the Xbox and Bethesda Showcase is kind of telling. But that you can expect some fairly big news from like Starfield and a few other of their properties. But it'll be interesting to see how the development of Bethesda games, because they are quite large properties and big games, how that changes and adapts to being on Game Pass going forward as well. And yeah, does that make it a different value proposition? And then does that change the question of what we've been asked in terms of the value that we'd attribute to an equal PlayStation service? Right? It might be that we don't want an equal PlayStation service. Is kind of what I'm saying there, basically.
Well, to answer Quaff's question, which was what was the maximum price we would pay for one of these types of services? I will answer that. £8. £8 a month.
£8 a month.
However, Game Pass is different. £8 a month, I think, is the sweet spot for a games service subscription type thing. However, Game Pass is the exception because they release first-party games day one.
Yeah. The only thing is, it's
so,
like...
And I think that's $11.99 a month, so £12 a month.
Yeah, but are we talking... So, you're saying that £4 a month helps pay for what? 3-4 first-party titles a year?
To me. Yes. But don't forget, when I was initially subscribed, and I'm going to do this again soon, when I was initially subscribed to Game Pass, I would not subscribe on the months I wasn't using it, and then would re-up when a new game was coming out that I wanted to play. However, the only reason that changed was because I got a phone subscription, and they gave me a year of free Game Pass with the subscription. So... That's why this at the moment. And that's about to run out. So I'll go back to doing I'm not subscribing this month. I'll go back this month. Exactly. Yeah. I'm being smart with my money. I'm still buying a stupid amount of games.
Still buying more games than you can play in one lifetime in a month.
Yep. Right, really quick question. We'll have one more from Ed. He says, he saw The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent this week. I can't wait to see that. And I decided this is the most moviest movie to ever movie.
Right.
So, what is the gamiest game you have ever played? Oh, it's easy. Super Mario Brothers on the Nintendo Entertainment System.
No, see, for me...
Or 3. Probably 3.
For me...
Super Mario Bros. 3.
For me, you want kind of a game within a game, or games within a game, like Arcade Paradise, like I was talking about last week.
No, you're overthinking it.
No,
you're overthinking about it. Super Mario Bros. 3 on the Nintendo Entertainment System. It's the gamiest game that ever gamed.
I mean, Tetris?
Yeah, you could go with that. It's because it's no bells and whistles. It's not like... You know, you get a David Cage game and you go, oh, it's a cinematic masterpiece of a video game. Or you go the point and click, oh, it's got the comedy of it's none of that. It's just a game. You sit, you play the damn game and you're done at the end of it.
But for me...
Pong is the gamiest game that ever gamed.
But see, for me, Pong and Tetris is a slightly better answer, even though it sounds a bit like I'm being a bit facetious. But... yeah, Pong and Tetris, because for me, if it's going to be the gamiest game, it needs to be something that could only exist as a game, whereas something like Mario, you could describe the story of what's happening in a Mario game in written form, and okay, it wouldn't quite have the same essence to it, and it wouldn't quite be the same thing, but you could describe what was happening, and it would be... you could make that into an interesting story. You could spin it into that. Whereas, like, describing the story of a game of Pong or Tetris would not have the same effect. It wouldn't produce an interesting story, basically. Although I do have a book about the story of Tetris, which is very good. But that is a slightly separate thing. It's a story of development of Tetris rather than a story of a game of Tetris, which would be quite boring.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Tim says Tetris and I say Pong.
Yeah.
I changed my mind like 3 times. Good. Pong. Specifically on the Grandstand 3500 Mark III, which I hope to buy next month.
Yeah.
It's my first console.
Oh.
Yeah.
I still got to dig out my old Atari. I think
I'll have that off you too.
sit on my thing over there, on my chessboard.
Yeah.
Made of wood.
Good. Well, you can take that PlayStation 5 out of the way and put it there instead.
I mean...
It looked great.
Big ugly that it is.
Tim, we've gone too long. Please. We have to stop now.
Okay.
I need food.
Okay.
I'm so tired. It's been a very long week. It's been a hell of a week, Murray.
It's only Thursday.
No podcast reviews this week, but if you could, please go over to such podcast providers as Apple Podcasts, as in Podchaser, as in Stitcher, as in anything that can do Spotify. If you can hear a podcast on it, you can probably leave a review on it, and you could probably do it on your phone on the very app you're listening on. So go leave us a review in some form, and we will check it out. Anyway, that is everything we have time for. This has been episode 488 of the Big Red Barrel UK podcast, or BRB UK. We tend to prefer. Dan will hopefully be back next week, but until then, dear listeners, I have been Chaos.
I might have been Tim. Definitely not Chaos.
And please go to tpublic.com and have a look at our podcast t-shirts, and t-shirts that are not to do with the podcast, but they are made by people of the podcast in some form. Tim organised all this. I've been really, really busy. I do podcast stuff. Tim does t-shirt stuff. That was the agreement we made at the start of this when we put our vibrating crystals together in our bid to take down Chaos.
5 years later,
Good.
I actually get around to actually putting the merchandise store up.
Our crystals vibrated and we came together, me, Dan and Tim, one day, and they drew us to each other. And I said, I'm going to take over all the podcast editing and production. And Tim went, I'm going to start a t-shirt store. And Dan went, I'm going to get a second doctorate. And off we went.
And play Destiny lots.
That is the story of... That is BRB UK Stranger of Paradise, the prequel to the BRB UK podcast, made by Squeenix. Good. Love it. What was I doing? Oh, yeah, we were going.
We're ending the podcast
until next...
So we can actually go
week.
Somewhere else.
Until next week. Dear listeners, thank you very much for listening, and viewers, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you next week. Good. Bye.
And your ears are quite welcome for the podcasting goodness that you just heard. Why not roll on over to BigRedBarel.com for more podcasts, news, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet, BigRedBarel.com.
They may have accidentally shared his sex tape in one of their video games. So, we'll have to see if he can come next week and speak to us instead. Probably a poor phrasing of words.
Just by process of working things out there. Are you saying he's knobbing Kim Kardashian?
Yes.